Hi, everyone. I am Kathryn Leann Harris, and I'm joined here by my colleague at the Housatonic Museum of Art, Jennifer Reynolds Kay. We are excited to be with you today to bring you a real treat, which is a conversation with Walter Iooss, who is the artist who contributed his photos to the Housatonic Museum of Art that we have curated into the making of an icon. Walter Iooss and Sports Photography. I am with Interpreting Sports, and myself and Douglas Stark were the guest curators this exhibit. And today we get to hear Walter tell us the behind the scenes of his life and his career as a Sports Illustrated photographer. So I want to just first of all do some introduction to let you know a little bit about Walter's life, and then we'll hear from him. So widely viewed as one of the greatest sports photographers of our time and called the poet laureate of sport.
Yeah. Oh, okay. But there's no.
Oh, hold on just a
I
second.
want to say like I'm somehow.
There we go. Whoops. Okay, we'll start that again. All right. So widely viewed as one of the greatest sports photographers of our time and called the poet laureate of sports, Walter Iooss has made a significant impact on the world of photography with his striking, dynamic images that capture the emotion and intensity of athletic competition. Born to a family of sports fans in Texas, Iooss discovered photography at 15. And at 17, got his first assignment for Sports Illustrated, and by 20, was shooting magazine covers. Today, Iooss images have appeared on over 300 covers of Sports Illustrated, including athletes like Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan, Pele Cristiano Ronaldo, Michael Phelps, and Serena Williams. He also photographed the first 52 Super Bowls, created a New York Times bestselling photo essay with Michael Jordan, and shot campaigns for Nike and Adidas. Flexibility and reinvention are two attributes that can largely determine the successful career of a photographer, and Walter Iooss has been doing both for more than 50 years. A world-class sports photographer with the instinct of a seasoned journalist, combined with the eye of a master artist, allowed him to excel in the area of sports action photography and commercial advertising. His ability to create beautiful backdrops for his subjects, both action and portraits, changed the definition of what a good sports photograph should be, as his images transcend the frame of his subjects, showing the trust that they feel with the photographer. And I want to just offer now the words of Iooss colleague Terry McDonald, who at the time of writing this was the editor of Sports Illustrated Group. Walter Iooss shot his first frame at a professional football game at Yankee Stadium in 1959 with his father's hobbyist camera. Developing that first roll, seeing the image appear in a makeshift home darkroom unlocked his future. Iooss was 16 years old. He's been putting photographs together in his mind ever since. As the years passed and sports and life became more complicated, Iooss redefined his technique, but not his style, which has remained fundamentally improvisational. It will surprise no one familiar with his work to learn that his father, Walter C. Iooss Sr., was a jazz bassist who performed with Benny Goodman, Dizzy Gillespie, Billie Holiday, and other musicians. The action and purity of sport have been Iooss' concentration. To paraphrase Henry Cartier Benson, to make a brilliant image is to capture in a fraction of a second the significance of an event. And this is what Iooss does best. He gets the picture. The meaning of the image is not always obvious, but something always lingers. Iooss is a master of the picture you can't forget, but without cliche. You return to his images only to find something previously unnoticed. If not in the frame, then certainly in your reaction to it. This is both complicated and wonderful. It is at this moment that the photographer becomes more real than reality. This is especially true of Iooss portraits, in which his instinct is so finely tuned that he does not so much capture emotions as paint it on the faces of his subjects with light and timing. The images literally explore the character, the intensity of Ray Lewis, the grace of Pele. His instinct is not only as an artist, he insists that he is not an artist, and that is for him to say. What I will say is that the work is transcendent. I would tend to agree with that. And I'm very open to hear your perspective on it, Walter. But I would tend to agree with your colleague. So,
Well, I don't even know what to say after that. Thank you so much.
you're welcome. It's different to hear it than to read it, isn't it?
Well, it's been, by the way, I was 19 when I had my first cover
I see.
of Sports Illustrated. And as you look through these photographs, one of the things, when I had my first time at 17, right out of high school, I felt cheated that I couldn't play ball anymore. You go to college, you can play ball for another 4 or 5 years. So I started photographing children around the world playing ball. And I started with a little league team I played with in East Orange, New Jersey in 1965, and then photographed kids in Cuba, Thailand, Brazil, all over the United States. I mean, I was possessed with children's sport because when you're a kid and play sport, once you start to do it, nothing else happens. The world stands still. When you're batting, someone throws a dish, nothing else is happening in that hundredth of a second, except that moment. In Cuba,
You're right. Age doesn't matter. It transcends the human experience.
and I'm gonna believe.
One of the
So it's like
go ahead.
this. This is one of my favorite pictures right here. The two baseball players, Scott and Templeton. So I went to Dodger Stadium because of the blue dugouts. And there were two teams that had blue uniforms. I went there once with the Philadelphia Phillies, but their blue uniform didn't match the wall. So I went back for the Dodgers, sat in the dugout, and just had these two guys sit there who couldn't have cared less about me. It's like one of these perfect pictures of color. I like it when they don't care about you.
Why is that?
Well, because then it becomes more candid. I mean, it's wonderful to work one-on-one, but such certain situations worked out. I mean, Arnie and Jack, I was 2 minutes with them. Came one of the most famous pictures of all time.
It speaks to your instinct, Walter.
Well, you know, I've always been possessed with sport as a child, and I was always possessed with form. Even when I was in high school, I was always drawing rather than pay attention, fixated on the athlete's form. And I think the players understand that too. You spend a lot of time with players. And when I was young, I was younger than any of the players. All the players were in their 20s. I was like 18.
Oh, but your name is he's like 12. Oh, never mind.
All right, so there's only one man in history that could have posed for that picture. Joe Namath. And this was the Super Bowl in 1969. As a New York Jets fan, the last year they were good, which is now what, 55 years ago? My arch rival and friend Neil Leifer at Sports Illustrated was sent to follow the Baltimore Colts, which were my team. I wanted to cover them and see Johnny Unitas, my hero. But they sent me to the Jets. And that picture with the New York reporters, if the Jets had lost, no one would have ever seen that picture. And I tried to recreate it with another quarterback. But only Joe could have pulled that picture off.
What was it about Joe that?
His eyes, his personality. He was Broadway Joe.
We just passed the catch.
Yes.
The most famous football photo, really, of still.
Well, the whole story behind the catch. I was sent in July to photograph the Dallas Cowboys for the season. So I started off in Thousand Oaks, California in July. And now we go through the whole season, and this is the game preceding whoever wins that game goes to Super Bowl. And with 7 seconds left in the game, Joe Montana rolls right and throws his ball. Dwight Clark makes the catch. I'm heartbroken. I go in the locker room after that game. And it was the worst locker room I've ever been in. It was like all the players had just lost their mother in a car accident. I mean, it was so depressing. Phil went to New York. I don't know where I was on Wednesday or Thursday that week. And it ran on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and they called it the catch. And there's history.
How did you capture it?
Well, I love pass receivers, so I had practiced that shot. There's an old saying, chance favors the prepared man.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always possessed with wide receivers, and I was always ready for them. And I always felt wherever you make a decision to go at the end of a game, it's an instinct, and that's where you're going to go. You got to believe it's right. So I went in that end zone, and I had a 180 millimeter lens, and I followed Joe rolling to his right and dropped it because I saw someone coming out of the side of my frame, the right, and just picked up the 15 millimeter, pre-focused to like 14 feet, and just brrr, and that was it. Who would have known?
Again, Walter, it speaks to your instinct, your intuition, and you're right, your preparation. It's no small thing. This is that one, the one we just passed, the diver, one of my personal favorites. We have that one in the exhibit. I love this one of Charles Barkley as well. We can revisit any of these. The one that the diver, Cruz, I believe is her last name. That's a posed photo, I would imagine?
I don't think so. I lit it though. I was looking, you always like things. Michelle Kwan on the roof in New York, we just passed. One of my favorite pictures. And of course, Michael.
Yeah.
You can never take a bad picture of Michael. He always looks great. And I first met Michael. I was sent by Sports Illustrated in 1987 to photograph for a cover in a suburb of Chicago called Lisle, Illinois. And the first day, I did a cover shoot. Michael had a great personality, charm, great family. And the next day, I set up the blue dunk. Arguably the best picture I've ever taken. So to get that picture, we painted, well, my assistants painted 2 parking lots, one red, one blue. I had to get a National Basketball Association basket, but there were none in Chicago. So we had one driven in from St. Louis. I got a cherry picker. You can only do that shot, for maybe 1 hour of the day because the shadow's too close, or it's too far away, and pray for no clouds. So we didn't know Michael was going to show up in his red uniform or his blue uniform. When he showed up in red, we went to the blue court. Had a camera, 14 frames a second, and the blue dunk was born.
And it's iconic. By itself, it's iconic. And that's what we really thought was so interesting about your photos is that you are an icon and you created iconic photos, over and over and over again. And you, in a way, played a role in creating the icon in the athlete, raising their iconic status. It just like the way we view athletes through the experience is one thing, but the way we view them through photographs, we get a totally different glimpse into who they are.
I love these Kobe photographs. Going back, I followed. I did a story with the Lakers for a season. And he came to New York, and they say it's the Plaza all the time. And he went across the street on Broadway to get a pizza. And I walk across the street like, no one knows it's Kobe. Like, what?
What?
Yeah, he walked back across Broadway with a pizza. And then we just sat in his room, stayed for an hour or so. That's one of my favorite pictures.
Why is that?
The lighting. Bernard Hopkins, his nickname was the Executioner. So I went to Philly and I lit it all with green gels, like fluorescent. So the light was directly above his head. Unfortunately, it's really bad on the face. So I had a film crew, and the guy took a little piece of aluminum foil and held it against the light, and that lit his eyes. Bingo. Yeah.
Fascinating. Where was this? Is this Cuba? Was that one Cuba? The one before this one? This one is.
Yeah, that's definitely Cuba.
Yeah. It's a great shoot.
You can't go wrong there. Well, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Stickball.
Why is that?
Well, to me, it's a perfect picture, which is, it's not easy to take a perfect picture. And it wasn't staged. We'd gone to Cuba twice. And on the last Saturday, we kept driving around Old Havana. And we saw this stickball, because stickball is my favorite sport. And the only thing wrong with it was, I've never seen a fat kid in Cuba. No one has any food. It was really bad in 1999. But I couldn't change them. And if you look at that picture, every kid is perfect. Someone's throwing a yo-yo, kid with a dog. And 10 years after that was taken, I had a gallery from DC. I went to Cuba to show my Cuban photographs. And that was the invitation. When he got in the taxi in Havana, he showed him the picture of the cab driver. He goes, you know where that is? He said, I know exactly where that is. And I'll tell you, everyone's still there. So he found everyone in that picture and brought them back to the gallery opening. Can't make it up.
Mm.
Yogi. He hated being photographed.
He did.
He couldn't take it. That was why the cover. He came back to manage, and it was Yogi's back. You know, great caption. No, he hated being photographed.
Is that why?
That's why.
So that's why you have the back? Because he didn't want you to photograph the front?
Well, I photographed in the stands, and he counted off like, Walter, you got 5 minutes. Okay. How many more minutes? 2 minutes. Okay. And then I followed him around on the field, and he just kept turning his back on me. There you go. Yogi's back.
That was the name of the name of the cover.
Yes, one of the great baseball players of all time. Absolutely.
Let's go back to the Cuba picture.
Which one?
This one.
Yes. All right. So if you look over it, there's a kid with a yo-yo, that little white dot over on the left.
Mm.
Sure. The boy holding the dog. The way the kids are posed, I set up nothing. And the one lens I really never use is a normal, a 50 millimeter. I just, you know, that's what your eyes see, basically, a 50 millimeter. But this picture, that was the only lens you could use. And I took, 23 frames and it was over. And then I saw it on the contact sheet, like, oh my God. Perfect. And that, you watch his eyes on that tape ball when nothing else in the world is happening except bad.
Yeah, I mean, this is where your skill and your focus meets live action. Your ability to capture a moment when for that athlete, nothing else is happening. It's the most important moment for them. And somehow you're able to get the split second and give it so much life. comes through your photographs.
Thank you. Yeah, that and the blue dunk, yes, and the slam dunk.
Let's look at, just wanted to pause on this one for a minute.
Yeah,
Just
That's the Scott and Templeton in the dugout.
Mm-hmm.
They're stopped, the way their hoses, the socks. I mean, it's perfect. I know what they're thinking. Get that camera out of my face.
You said earlier,
Wide open.
you said earlier about capturing the form of the athletes, and that surely they, I don't know, understand that or care about that. What do the athletes care about the most in terms of being photographed?
It's quick and good. So Michael Jordan, we asked for a comment for a book. And it's the greatest compliment in a way I've ever had. He's quick and he's good. Because when you know these athletes, the famous ones can spend all their time being photographed or doing interviews. You come in, you got 10 minutes, you got 20 minutes. And then I would go less. I got 20, 19. Kobe and Mike, all these guys, LeBron, I appreciate that. They trusted me. I would always leave early. I ran over with Kobe once. We were shooting Kobe and Tyra Banks. And I went 20 minutes over. And we left. Kobe says, "You owe me 20 now." So, okay.
All right,
Let's
so
subtract.
so that's the quick. What do they want from the good? What does good mean to them?
Good photograph.
What does that mean?
They
What does that
know.
mean to you?
Best compliment possible. They trust me in a short period of time, and then they know I'm going to do the job. I mean, the whole Jordan book, The Rare Era, changed how athletes approach it. After that, I did books with Penny Griffey, Mario Andretti, Joe Montana, Wayne Gretzky. And all these people had seen that book growing up. And they couldn't understand how I had such great access to Michael. I mean, we just, the whole story is I flew out to Chicago, it was 1992. It wasn't a good year. I sort of need to make some money or do something. So I had a job in Hawaii. You know what? I'm going to get a lozenge.
Okay.
Here we go. In my throat. Here we go. So I flew to Chicago. And I brought a book on Elvis Presley that was photographed in 1956 by Albert Wertheimer. The greatest series of pictures of an artist. A truck driver, the biggest star in the world. And a series of pictures from Time magazine of Clinton backstage before the election. And I waited for him after the game. And he was always the last one to leave the locker room. He said, "Walter, what are you doing here?" I said, "Michael, I've got an idea." He says, "Your ideas usually mean work." So I showed him the two articles. I said, "Look, you've got everything. Wonderful family, your children, MVPs, NBA titles." I said, "Why don't we do something and be your family album forever?" I said, "I like that idea. Let me think about it." So he flew. I went to Hawaii and I met him back in Los Angeles. He says, "Walter, I like this idea." He said, "Oh, I like the way you make me look." We shook hands. That was it.
I like the way you make me look.
Yes. That's what he told me.
What do you think he
shook
meant?
it.
What do you think he meant by that?
Well, I showed him other pictures. because you just can't take a bad picture. Maybe I did it better than some other people.
Maybe.
And then he said he could have taken 90%. He says, we'll split it down the middle. And then the book came out in 1993, rare. And you couldn't find it. I mean, I go by my bookstore in Manhattan, Barnes and Noble. Where is it? And then his father was murdered.
Mm.
And he retired from basketball. And this book ended up selling 800,000 copies.
Mm.
They couldn't print the hardcover quickly enough. Trade was number 1. Hardcover was like number 11 or 12. And there was a great sports writer in New York called Dave Anderson, who was a New York Times writer. And he had a couple of bestsellers. And I said, we're talking about the book. He says, you want to know where your book is on the charts? I said, yeah. He said, you call this New York Times number. And they list from 25 to number 1 backwards. So you listen. In week 1, Rare Air, number 21. Oh my God. Next week, Rare, number 8. Next week, Rare Air, number 1. My God.
Here's the blue dunk.
There it is. I have to say that's about a perfect picture too.
I'll let you have that for
By the
sure.
way, another millisecond, once that arm hits the basket, it's no good. The shadow.
It's the arm behind him.
It's just, this is almost, photography is 1-dimensional. This is almost 3-dimensional.
It is.
So this idea, I didn't come up with this idea. I worked for a German soft drink company back in the early 80s or mid 80s called Iooss. And what they did, they would take, say, a tennis player, shoot from above on a red clay court. You shoot him serving, they get the shadow, and then we superimpose him, and he'd sit down and drink, and I'd shoot from above. I said, you know what? This is a brilliant idea, but I need a vehicle. It's a fabulous idea. And then I got the Michael assignment. I said, there's my vehicle.
Mm.
So before this game, I had gone to the slam dunk contest in '87 that preceded the '88 game. And I realized, and I lit the arenas. If you don't see the player's face, it's worthless. So I come to the court like 3 hours before because I have strokes in Chicago in '88. And Michael's sitting there. I said, hey, Mike, it's Walter Iooss. Yeah. I said, how you doing? He said, well, I'm a little cold. And I said, I explained what happened the year before in Seattle. You can't see the face. It doesn't matter. I said, Michael, is he the dumbest or the smartest question I've ever? I said, Michael, could you tell me which way you're going to be for the dunk? I thought he'd give me the finger. But he's such a competitor. He goes, yeah. I said, how are you going to do that? He said, look on the bench. I'll point. You're going to remember this? He said, oh, yeah. I'll look over, point. So I move under the basket. So the dunk that preceded the famous slam dunk picture, I was right under the basket, under the stanchion. And when he dunked, he landed in my lap, which I thought was exciting. I don't think he liked it that much. So the last dunk, I look down the court, and he goes like this to me. Slide over. I move over, slam dunk. You know what? You can always get no. I've always did that. Just say no, okay.
This is Julia Cruz. Remembered her
Liv.
first name. So,
Got it.
oh yeah.
I love that picture.
What do you love about it?
the negative space, the vignetted light on her face. Nothing's happening, but there's so much negative space, but you just go straight to her face and then down. Yeah. I'm not even sure where I took it. Probably California. Either in Florida, could have been Fort Lauderdale.
I think it was Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
I believe that was
Very cool.
I believe I remember that from the photo. Yeah, we put this one in a section called Lonely at the top. Talk about the sense of loneliness that athletes feel both in just in their life in general, but being, in the position that they're in. There's not many people like them other than the other elite athletes in other sports, but also, as you pointed out, that there's a sense of loneliness in that split second where nothing else matters because it's just you. It's just you and the sport and your practice and your ability, which I think is also a great metaphor for your work as well. It's just you. It comes down to that split second you get the catch. It's a lifetime's worth of practice and intuition that goes into the ability to do that, just like the athletes. It's a split second. You gotta rely on everything. They have to rely on everything that they've done up to that point. I love this photo because I think it really encapsulates that sense of loneliness and like responsibility. It's all up to her. In a millisecond, she's gonna be in the water.
Yeah, on her toes at the edge of the board.
Yep.
That's a tough profession, being a diver.
Yeah, it is. And the fact that you captured just the sky, nothing but the board, her, and the sky, it's just breathtaking.
Well, my possessiveness with backgrounds. I wish I had bad background, bad picture.
Well, it comes through.
Backgrounds go whole clean. Can you go back to the Michelle Weed photograph on the rooftop?
Let's see. Do we pass it back here?
Uh,
I think it's the other way. I think it was this way.
There it is. All right. So this was shot for a semi-Olympic event that took place in the city for like 1 year. It's called the Goodwill Games. And I was assigned by a friend of mine to shoot the athletes. So we went up to a rooftop over around 40-something street in Manhattan. Create a little stand. It's black plexiglass. She came on with her skates. It was a smoggy day. And it was like, the moment she threw in her pose, it was like, oh my gosh. And the skyline. You get the Chrysler Building and the Empire State Building.
It's majestic. It's absolutely majestic. Everything down to the way her skirt's floating in the wind. It's just.
We didn't have a fan either, so.
It's just breathtaking.
When the picture comes to be, it's a very short period of time, but the light is perfect.
That's what makes your craft and your position in it even that much more remarkable. Your instincts have to be really sharp.
George. Yes. So you have this one and the double exposure. Okay. These were taken on 4x5 Polaroid film. So go back to the first one.
Okay.
So this was taken in Michael's vestibule in his home in 1998. And you're peeling him off. He's giving me crap. And then go to the double exposure. I peel this off. By the way, it's perfect because the shadow goes by his eye. I say, Michael, look at this. So let's try it again. So Walter, you're never going to get that again. That was pure luck. And of course, we tried it again. Worthless.
Yeah. It is perfection.
Told Mike. This was the same day in the same location, probably 20 minutes before or after. So I brought two backgrounds in, a red and a green,
Mm.
the opposite colors. And just one light.
I love the way you make me look, is what he said. I love the way you make me look.
Scotty. Same green background, but I just put a towel on him.
Mm.
I'm getting a spam call.
Uh-oh. I think I got one a few minutes ago.
What I did.
The joys of technology. There was let's see, there's a couple of stories I wanted to ask you about. So this shoot,
All right, that is one of the great days I've ever had. I was very nervous.
mm,
So I would call Ali's house. I get his wife on the phone. And the only way Joe would do this shoot, Joe Frazier, was that Ali had to go to his gym in Philly. Because Ali had said, it's a lot of derogatory things about Joe. And I kept calling his house. And I love Joe Frazier. I've been to his gym numerous times. And so Ali shows up. And he wouldn't shave his mustache. We talked about that before. And the robe Joe is wearing is from the Rumble in the Jungle. That's the original robe. And then I found a robe, a replica of the robe Muhammad wore that fight. And we shot this on 20 by 24 inch Polaroid. There was a camera like that. All in color, and Sports Illustrated. All they want is laughing, fun. He peeled these Polaroids off and hang them on the wall. I mean, the greatest photography tool of all time. And it was more than life size. And then we shot some black and white, where you combine the color film and the black and white to get the sepia. And that's why I just said, no smiling, no joking. You look at Muhammad's hand, his right hand, it's dead. His right hand was dead. He never said a word. He understood what I was saying. And then we took this picture, we hung him up. The family was there, Ali's family, all the Fraziers. And they all went, that's the picture. Because that's who they are. Basically, two broken down warriors. Chile.
It's all there too. It's all there. It's all there. It comes through completely clearly. Let's see. I wanted to ask you about.
But you can't talk about that. He said, keeping a handle on my business. It was on the team plane, which I was never allowed to fly on. They'd let me go on and take pictures and throw me out. Oh, Kobe and Shaq. They didn't get along. And I love both of them. Shaq was just one of the most personal guys of all time. And so this was the year I spent with the team. And they were so tired of me taking pictures. And you can see it right here. I'm done with it. Shaq's good, but it's perfect.
Yeah, it reflects both the moment and their relationship at the same time.
Yeah. I love both. There was a guy I photographed called Moses Malone years and years ago. And, he was like 7 foot. We had another 7 foot. We did the story on 7'7". I brought him to DC. We were going to do it in front of the Washington Monument. And Moses, I couldn't really understand what he said a lot of times. And so we're finished shooting, I think. And he goes, "Are you be done talking?" I said, "Excuse me?" And my sister, your brother too, like, what? So ask me, are you be done tooken? Are you finished? Are you be done tooken? I guess he failed English. Okay, I'll go back to that girl.
Okay.
There's no picture like this where the hoop is not touching the building. I didn't even want to do this picture. I wanted to go to her home, because you go into the homes of these kids, there's not much. I wanted to see how they live. And then I went outside in the street. There's called a rhythmic gymnast. And look at her body.
She reminds me of Michelle a little bit. What ice skaters do with their bodies and what gymnasts do with their bodies are often quite similar.
Gymnast.
Yeah,
You don't last long in those sports.
you don't. It wrecks the body. Can't do it, and you can't do it forever.
No. I mean, most athletes' careers are over by mid-30s at the latest.
Mm-hmm.
So you think about what you do best and what makes you happiest, and it's over at maybe 25, 30, some golfers 40. And then what do? Nothing can replicate it. Yeah, I've heard.
It's the paradox of being an athlete.
Yeah.
Wanted to have
Yeah,
you.
go back. Okay. One,
This one?
Arnold Palmer, go back one. One of the most charismatic figures in the history of sports. I mean, this is in Jersey at the US Open, not far from where I was living. You know, the Jersey police. No hat, swagger. I mean, look, my mother, who was divorced at that time, she even said she might do it with Arnie. And Arnie, on top of this incredible play and swagger, was the most wonderful person. He took care of everyone he met. Every autograph was perfect. Everything he did. I remember I played at the golf course years ago. And it was very expensive to play. It's in Orlando. I went up to the front desk with my 3 companions. I said, we have a 120 tea time. He goes, "You're comped by Mr. Palmer."
We use this photo in the exhibit to talk about rivals and pulled a quote that Jack Nicklaus said when Arnie died about their relationship and how they were the fiercest competitors, but they always had each other's back. I think that really comes through in this photo as well.
Well, I was sent to Latrobe to photograph a former President Eisenhower in 65 or somewhere. I remember this picture of Arnie and Ike. And then Arnie says, "We're going to have lunch." And by the way, you were never allowed as photographer in this situation. It's the worst life imaginable. And for these two guys to be sitting there with their cigarettes all over the table, it's the only picture of its kind like that. Yes, and Jack and Arnie were, in many ways, complete opposites, but great golfers. Jack was probably the greater golfer. And, Arnie had the swagger. Jack was just heavy set. And I photographed him many times. Great guy.
I really like the one with Jack in the yellow shirt.
Yeah.
In the
British
sand
Open.
trap. Where do you know where that was taken?
British Open.
British Open. Yeah, that makes sense because he's knee deep in a
this
sand
picture-
trap.
Go back. Maybe we should close with this.
I don't know. I've got one more I want to close with.
Okay, well, okay, go with that. We'll go back to this.
No, I think you're gonna want to close. Well, I don't know. You may not. I'm going to the Colts picture of Unitas. Do you want to close
Walking
with?
off the field.
Yeah, do you want to close with that one or this other one?
Um,
Your call.
I want to close with the black and white.
Okay.
Because this,
Okay. So all right. So let me go.
okay, Johnny and I.
I love this
Okay.
one too. We didn't get into this one, but it's so good. All right. Let's see. There we are.
I want to go back.
You
I want to go to the black and white.
okay? Well, can we do both?
Yeah, I mean, Johnny was my hero growing up, my
Yeah.
boyhood hero. And I never met him till he was long retired. And he couldn't hold a cup of coffee in the magic arm. So this was after a game. I'd always follow him around. And his career was almost over. This is in Baltimore, the old Memorial Stadium, which I love. And you see him with his high tops and the cape and the Colts on the back. And it's empty field, just like a legend, gone.
Ugh. Even with the light, that little stream of light coming in from the side,
I mean, it's just,
it speaks to this, yeah, this like vanishing moment.
and the light tower. If you take it out, it's not as good. Now, go back to the black and white,
Okay.
because that was big in my career.
Oh, wait, there it is.
Okay.
All right.
This one. All right. So you go back. With a lot more time.
Okay.
So I used to watch a show on TV when I was 15, 16, called Pro Football Highlights. Every Thursday at 7:30, they show highlights. So my dream was to go to Baltimore. And I watch this every week. I watch all the highlights. So I took a train from East Orange to Newark to Baltimore. And I was on the field for the first time at the Colts game. And I wore all khaki in case I could see myself on the sidelines on Pro Football Highlights next Thursday. So at the end of the game, Unitas throws his pass, this guy, Jimmy Orr, who bobbles the ball because see his pinkies under the ball,
Oh,
bobbles the ball, falls into the end zone, and scores. Right in front of me. I went crazy. I jumped up and jumped on his back. 18. And then next week on Pro Football Highlights, there I was in this picture, one frame, tack sharp. That was the beginning of my love in photographing pass receivers.
how old were you when you took this photograph?
I think 19, 18 or 19.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, the
the,
ball goes right through the defensive guy, Jerry Mertens, the
Yeah.
49ers, goes through his hands. He's not even seeing the ball.
he thinks he's got it.
We did, the NFL did a story on the National Football League, and they showed that clip. And they went and interviewed pass receiver Jimmy Orr before he passed. He remembered the whole thing.
So
This is-
remarkable.
Who's that idiot jumping on?
We want to open it up for questions. So if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. If there's any questions from the live audience, I know Jennifer's got those available.
Yep, so for those of us in the room, if you have any questions, just raise your hand. Very happy to pass this forward.
They can get these.
In 1 second.
Okay.
Hold on.
Gonna pause on this one. This is Joe Namath, Broadway Joe in California for the Super Bowl. Week of the Super Bowl, a couple days before.
Broadway Joe. Okay, so you look at the reporters, the guy in the yellow shirts got the Daily News tabloid from New York. On his head, there's a picture of Joe Namath on it. So the famous TV reporter Brent Musburg is on the left. These ladies, they weren't reporters. They followed Joe Namath from Alabama, and they would feed him while he was in college and give him lunch every day. They came to the Super Bowl. And all the other guys are Joe Green from Detroit, all reporters, but look at his face. Yeah. I mean,
There's mothers.
thank God I was sent there and not the ball.
I think this woman in the back really makes it. She's just,
I mean, I love the Daily News on the guy's head too. It was taken in Fort Lauderdale.
oh, it was Fort Lauderdale. I said it was
Yeah, Fort
California while you were up. It's Fort Lauderdale.
Called Ocean Mile Resort. 1969.
If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. Oh, did you want to mention something about that one, Walter?
Hank Aaron?
Or this one? Did you start to say something?
No,
No,
it's-
okay.
It's not that.
Yeah, Hank Aaron, you want to say anything about Hank?
Yeah, he didn't like being photographed at all.
Hmm.
He had so many problems in his life and hate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I worked with him. This was early in his career. It was in Palm Beach, West Palm Beach. The spring training. They went to Montreal and did some other good pictures of him. And the cover when he was breaking the record of Babe Ruth, and that was not easy for him.
I think we have a
Arnie.
question. We have a question. Has Arnie, okay, we have a question of how many photos
Yeah.
are in the exhibit. We've got, did we land on 50 or 48? Jennifer, you remember? We have around 50. We have around 50. That
Yeah,
we,
but we have about 144 in the collection.
so we selected 50 from the selection of 144 that Walter loaned to the museum.
And it looks like we have an in-person question.
Okay.
Yes, I can repeat it if you can't hear it.
I can't hear it.
I can't
I'll
hear him.
repeat it. I'll repeat it. The question is, how long have you been doing this for, Walter?
How long have I been doing it?
Yes.
60 years.
One more time.
Over 60 years.
Over 60 years. And are you still taking photographs?
Well, I had one job last year, and I'm going to do a job, an enormous job, biggest job I've had probably in a decade, which I can't talk about. It's starting in May. I mean, it's the last good job I did was with one of my best friends in sport, Ken Griffey Jr. Who also once, pre-pandemic, he calls me up. He says, I want you to come up and photograph my family. I said, okay, let me go buy a ticket. He said, no, I'll send my plane down for you. I said, really? And so my sister and I, my best friend down here, we got on the plane from Opelika in Miami up to Palm Beach, or Orlando, excuse me. And then he picks us up. We photograph his family. We go back to a Mexican restaurant, drives me back to his plane, pays me a bunch of money, like, holy Christ. He's got a wonderful family.
I've been curious about this photo, Walter. And that's
Okay.
blue water.
No,
No.
first of all, this is flipped. No diver goes up. This is the great diver, Greg Louganis, the most famous male diver, probably in history. Taken in Mission Viejo, California. And I photographed him 3 times in 83, 84 for Fuji. And this is like a quarter or a half second exposure. And the lights, those streaks are the lights illuminating the pool. And it was a twilight. And so when I panned down, they all mixed, you know, the light between his legs. And I flipped it. I'll never forget when I saw the slide for the first time in my light box. And I just turned it. So I went back to show him the picture. Like, check this out. He looks at it, he goes, I'm bent. His body's not perfect. That's it. Bye. I'm bent. Okay.
Did you create the background after the fact, or was it already?
No. It's Rome. Nothing's done on this.
Unbelievable.
Fuji Chrome.
How is it red?
Twilight. The sky. I mean, I'm shooting into a sky with the lights illuminating the pool. He was on the high platform, and you see his hands, because when they break the water, they have to use their hands to break it, because their shoulders and heads. He said, I can only dive so many times. Because it puts so much impact on their body.
Well, it tells you what how athletes feel about form. He took one look at it and said, I'm bent. That's it.
I'm bent. Done.
Walter, we've reached the top of the hour. So I think we're nearing the end of our time here together, which has been nothing short of an absolute treat to hear you
Michael.
talk about your work.
Can't take a bad picture of him. Impossible.
And thank you so much from our live audience here at Housatonic. We really appreciate your time, Walter, and Kat as well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We go on all day.
Thank you. Thank you for the
You made a great
opportunity.
selection. Thank you for the time today.
Thank you. It's been a real joy to work with your photographs and
Thank you.
to put words to what you show us in images. It just, there was such richness there to pull from. It made our job really easy
Thank you.
and really enjoyable. And it's an honor. It's a real honor to get the chance to spend the hour with you and to work with your photographs. And
Thank you.
there's no one like you,
My
Walter.
throat was better. By the way, you showed almost every picture that has a background. That's a background I created at his home. Oh, that was a background.
Yeah.
I don't like hockey. It's too cold on the ice. This was on the roof of the Beverly Hills Hotel. Jackie Joyner, Dodger Stadium.
The only thing we didn't mention, and we'll need to hop off, but we can't go into it, but we didn't mention your swimsuit edition photos, which was another huge part of your career. And I just want to drop it in there that for all of those who've seen the swimsuit editions, Walter's behind many, many, many of those.
Yeah.
Great. It's just great art, Walter. And
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you for 60 years of sharing what you see through a lens with the world, for sharing it with us and for giving us this time. It's really
It's
appreciated.
nice, even for me to see him like this, but I never really look at him like this.
Just to sit back and view them.
Huh? They're clean. Oh, there's my boy, Junior. Okay.
All
One
right.
last. Go back. Go back.
Okay. All right.
So this is in Boston. I was doing the book with him. We went onto a rooftop in Boston, and I didn't know you could see the skyline. And we took a light, and someone vignetted it, the strobe, so it's only lit across his eyes. Another guy can't take a bad picture of. One of my favorites.
Beautiful. And the angle is exactly right on the lighting with the background. That's my city.
B-Town, great sports town.
It is a great sports town.
It is. Oh my God. It's been a lot of time.
Okay, Walter, I believe that's all. I believe that's all we have time for, sadly.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Housatonic. Thank you,
Thank
Jennifer.
you.
John. Shane.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for your time. Adios.
Bye, Walter. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Good to be with you today.